Welcome back to SabreTalk. I'm your host, Brandon. We're here with episode 2. We have a new guest in front of us today, Shawn Morley. Shawn, how you doing?
Doing real good. How about yourself?
Not too bad. I appreciate you joining me on this. Kind of a spin-off of our other podcast that we've been running with the guys.
Sure.
You know, obviously trying to do something a little bit different here, trying to get a special guest in here every week and try to kind of share their story and talk a little bit about their business and their, expertise. And I thought there was nobody better to start with than yourself. You've been around ShopSabre for quite a while, I'd say. You've had a machine now, what? How many years has it been?
Well, it might be over 10 now.
Over 10 years
right
now.
Around there.
You've had 2 ShopSabres, actually. So you started with a 4814. Am I correct on that?
Yep.
You had a 4814 10-ish years ago, and then you upgraded to the IS 510. Am I correct if I'm remembering?
Yep.
Cool.
6 years ago?
Yeah, I'd say 6 years ago, I think. Yeah.
Something like that. Right when it came out.
Yeah. You're one of the first ones. I know when we came out with that model, you were really excited to get into that.
Yep.
A lot higher speed, a lot more capabilities. And obviously the 4814 had its years of use. Obviously you had gotten plenty of use out of that one and decided it was probably time to upgrade. And I know
the 510 was a game changer.
Yeah, because what was your other one was 12, wasn't it long? Was it 12 foot?
No, that was 10.
Was that 10 foot long as well?
Yep.
I can't remember. Oh yeah, that's right. You had the tool change in the rear of that one, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
See, look at that. See, it's been so long. I remember some of this stuff. But yeah, so let's tell our audience here a little bit about yourself. Let's tell them what's your business. I mean, some people know you, some people don't know you. Let's talk a little bit about it.
Sure. Well, I own Lakes Area Custom Cabinetry. Our primary business is building cabinets.
What you meant to say is Marianne owns Lake Area Custom Cabinetry.
My wife.
She owns Lake Area Custom Cabinetry.
She's the boss.
And he works for her.
Yeah.
No, that's awesome. Yeah, you and your wife own it.
Yep.
You guys have been doing that how long?
We got to be about 20 years.
20 years now.
Right around there.
So that's a good.
You got to ask the boss.
You got to ask the boss. I don't know. I just been there, right? But I mean, that's a good conversation here, quick, because timelines, right? We're talking about things here. You've had a ShopSabre for 10-ish years.
Yep.
We're saying 20-ish years been in business. That means there's 10-ish years there that you did it the hard way.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we started with furniture more so, and then that kind of developed into the cabinets.
Gotcha.
But doing it the hard way for a long time, the real hard way with just a table saw, and then you move up to a panel router, and.
So let me ask you, I guess, how did you first get involved in cabinetry? Like, what got you into the? You said it started with furniture, but what actually got you into cabinetry work? Where'd that come from?
Well, having a young family and needing to make some money.
Yeah.
My background's in IT. That's what I went to school for, and just got to the point where I didn't love doing it, and I wanted to do something else, and.
You got tired of control alt delete, huh?
Maybe that might have been it. I don't know. And way back in the day, I was working at a Rockler woodworking store, and woodworking kind of turned into a hobby, and it just went from one thing to another, and I found excitement and joy in it.
So you kind of took the old advice of find something that you love to do every day, and you never work a day in your life.
Yeah, I guess so.
For you, it seems like you love woodworking. It kind of became a passion of yours, and I've always said that you're probably one of the most positive people that I work around. I've been fortunate enough that over the years I've seen how busy you get, and even through the busiest times, it seems like you handle that stress. Either you're really good at hiding it, or man, it seems like you do actually enjoy and have a lot of passion for what you do.
It is fun. It's fun creating something, seeing something. You take a block of wood and what you can create out of it is definitely a lot of fun.
Yeah, Router Bob said it to me many years ago. He was talking about we were making a corbel, and he had a block of wood, and he said, what's kind of cool is there's something hidden right inside this block of wood. Mm-hmm. And it kind of made me think about it that way, because once we put it on the CNC machine and started turning it, it turned into this beautiful corbel. And then, when we were done, he's like, see, it was just hidden inside there. We just had to remove some material.
Yep.
And it's kind of true, because you kind of take shape from, raw material, and, especially with you, the houses I've seen you do. I mean, you've done some pretty beautiful homes. I've seen that, many lake homes and many, $1 million homes that you've been in and done. And I've seen the photos, and it's kind of cool to say that, all of the work that you've done there really started with sheets of material, and you've been able to create this, beautiful kitchen.
Yeah. Yeah. It's really fun seeing the excitement in newer employees' eyes too.
Yeah.
Because they haven't been around that.
Yeah.
And, it's the same concept, you know.
Yeah.
They take that, they see a sheet of material or the raw lumber coming in, and then after it's installed, and what it turns out to be is pretty cool.
Yeah, and so I mean, I guess let's talk a little bit about that, because a lot of guys, I think they get so hung up on I do it all by hand. It's all handcrafted and it's this and that. They don't want to look at CNC, right? CNC, that's not doing it the real way. How did you discover CNC? How did CNC machining? How did you find that?
Well, ultimately, it came about because it was getting harder to compete.
Okay.
So initially, it was, you know, how can we get stuff done quicker? How
Yeah.
can we eliminate more mistakes?
Yeah.
And that's where it started. Ultimately, was we got to be able to compete. Most of the shops in our area all run CNCs.
Gotcha.
So we needed to look at a different way to be able to compete, and that was really the only way to do it.
So you were kind of behind that. It sounds like you were chasing a little bit. It sounded like other shops kind of got ahead of you because of the CNC technology, and you were trying to keep up with them.
Right.
That's wild. So, you know, you think about that was what, 10 years ago.
Right.
Think about a CNC or being a shop today without a CNC. I mean, that's 10 years later.
I couldn't imagine it. Even when you look at it back then, you kind of go, boy, if I would have done this even 6 years earlier, you know, it might be further ahead than I am already.
Yeah, and that's something I want to talk about, I guess, is, you know, how has using the ShopSabre, you know, changed the way that you approach projects and do certain jobs that are, you know, coming up, and, you know, could you share any, I mean, maybe you can, maybe you can't, but could you share any instances where you feel like the ShopSabre really made it possible? I mean, is that?
Well, yeah, I mean, I could give lots of examples.
Yeah.
The easiest one is, you know, you asked me, you know, who I am and what's my business. Well, it is cabinetry.
Yep.
But because of ShopSabre, we now do so much more stuff.
Gotcha.
You know, we're into the commercial side of things.
Yeah.
Whether it's cutting things for hotels or 3D wall panels or, you know, a number of different things. And a huge part of that business spun off of the gantry height of the ShopSabre CNC, because there was a company they needed something that was, I believe it was 8 inches thick.
Wow.
And they needed it cut, and they couldn't find a shop to do it. Well, with the ShopSabre, we could do it. So we figured out all the machining. It was a two-sided. Essentially, the easiest way to describe it was a giant piece of crown.
That's cool.
And we got it done. And without the machine, we wouldn't have been able to. But that spun into a lot of work on the commercial side. So essentially running 2 different companies now.
By being able to say yes to that job, essentially you open doors for other jobs and down the road.
Yeah, big time.
That's pretty awesome. And I'm going to brag a little bit here because I know a little bit about your business, but you also do some pretty incredible door work as well, correct?
Yeah, we do some stuff.
Yeah, you have MDF doors that I know you do a lot of. I mean, I've seen some beautiful shaker doors that you've done. Last week you did a project, or 2 weeks ago, you did a project that was pretty incredible that I saw you.
Yeah,
you know,
the reeded doors.
Yeah, the reeded door.
Yep.
And we were talking about that because you don't do a ton of them, right?
No.
But
they're getting a little more popular.
Yeah, and historically you had to buy those. Is that correct? Or pay somebody?
Yeah. So and they're very expensive. Mm-hmm. But the biggest issue we run into is the company that we previously used to make that is they have specific sizes you have to order in.
Okay.
Well, that takes away a lot of our custom side of it.
Yeah.
So it limits you a little bit, or in this particular case, the designs were already done. There's a designer involved.
Yeah.
This is what our opening is. This is what we need to do. So we need to make it ourselves and make it work.
Yeah, because like you said, if they don't do the custom sizes, then what do you do? I mean, you have to change the whole kitchen or the whole design?
It's like 1/4 inch increments.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you end up having to change your job to fit that if you didn't have a solution.
Yep.
So that's pretty cool. And then, I know from your perspective, let's just talk about that. What are some of unique advantages that you feel, specifically the machine you own, offers over the other cabinet making industries? I know you mentioned the gantry height for the signs, right?
Right.
That's unique there. But what do you, in your perspective, is there any unique advantages that you feel ShopSabre specifically gives you over other cabinet machines? Because you said you're up against other shops that have their cabinet machines.
Well, ShopSabre support is always huge.
Okay.
Knowing you've got that right there, and they're one call away.
Yeah.
And they're always there to help. I've had very few problems, but the few problems I've had,
yeah,
it's taken care of right away.
Well, go us.
Which is awesome.
Yeah.
That's a big part of what I love about ShopSabre,
No, I do, because honestly, like, I was glad you said that, because that's one of the biggest advantages I do feel that we bring to the market. And
Absolutely.
It's so underrated. I mean, I have to give, honestly, I have to give a round of applause to our tech guys. So, those guys are pretty awesome. I mean, I will say that we have a good group of guys down there, but I feel like that's what the number one thing that sets us apart from other companies is the people.
Yeah.
It's their passion.
I mean, it's the best service any machine company that I work with.
That's awesome. And I think that says a lot too, because you work with some pretty good machine companies too. I mean, you have Sahisa Edge Bander, correct?
Yep.
You have a Schmalz vacuum lift, correct? Am I missing anything?
I've got some Ritter tools.
Yep.
Some older stuff.
Gotcha. But I mean, you work with some pretty big name companies, and obviously you talk to a lot of people in the industry. You know your industry pretty well, and I would have to imagine that you probably compare. I mean, I think all of us do it, right? When we own a product, we compare it to our friends,
Sure.
toys and things
Sure.
that they own. And I guess from your side of things, what do you think? Obviously, let's take the machine side of things. What do you think of the quality in your equipment after owning it for 10 years, comparably to some of the stuff that you've seen out there?
Well, the ball screw technology to me is huge.
Mm-hmm.
If you remember way back when I first got my IS,
Yep.
I crashed that thing hard.
That's the one where you almost put it through the garage door, wasn't it?
That'd be the one.
Yeah.
So I had a small sheet fall up against the gantry, or against the frame actually, and I was on the other side of the machine. Set it to go change a tool. Didn't know it was there. It took that 4-foot sheet, threw it into the wall, and it threw my whole gantry off. I don't know, what, 1.5 inches maybe. Had I not been freaking out so bad, I probably would have videoed it, but I called tech support.
Yep.
And I think I got Logan at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And his first words were, "All right, well, just calm down. It'll be fine." And I'm like, it's not going to be, I'm freaking out.
Yeah.
And had me rehome it. And I watched this thing come back, square itself up.
Yep.
Nothing broke. And we did a couple test cuts.
You lost a little material there, didn't you?
I lost a little material. I do have a little mark on the machine.
Yeah.
But nothing happened. Where if that's a rack and pinion machine, all those teeth are going to be likely going to be wrecked.
Yeah.
So I memean the durability of that. When we do carvings, like a couple years ago, you've seen some of the pictures where we have a 20-yard dumpster full of sawdust.
Yeah.
Where we're carving 4-inch thick MDF into, what was that, a 17 by 25 foot wall.
Yeah. It was impressive for anybody who's trying to picture this. It was literally a giant dumpster just full of MDF dust that he had turned all of that dust from a 3D carving.
Yep. And so, with that, the precision, I mean, it's constant movement.
That's awesome.
Throughout the entire table. And we don't have to worry about it anywhere. You know, it's going to be the same cut no matter where you are on the table, and perfect every time.
Well, that's that ball screw that you're talking about. I mean, what people don't realize, for anybody who's not familiar with ball screw, is ball screws, they have a ball bearing that is going to move in a track, essentially, just like the linear guide system. But the benefit of it is, as you move up and down the long axis of the machine, in your case 10 feet, the accuracy doesn't change.
Right.
That ball bearing is riding with the gantry all the way up and down, where a gear and teeth drive system, a rack and pinion system, the track doesn't move. The track is the same track all the way down, 10 feet of machine. So the teeth in, the positions at 2 feet of the machine are different teeth than the ones at 10 foot. So, Shawn, let's talk about, that for a moment.
You get a little more wear on a rack and pinion too.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say is, let's talk about that, because you have a 10-foot machine. Mm-hmm. How often do you truly cut 5 foot wide by 10 foot on every cut?
For a full length cut?
Yeah, full length cut.
Not real often.
Yeah, so most of the time, even though you're putting a 10-foot sheet up there, you might be working in the first 8 foot of the machine more than you are that last 2 feet, right?
Right. It just depends on if we're doing a 3D carve or if we're doing cabinet stuff.
Yeah, and so the point of my statement there is, let's just go off of what he said. He's not often cutting every single time to 10 feet.
Right.
And so if you're not, if you were running a rack and pinion system, you'd be wearing the track in those first 4 to 6 to 8 feet more than you would be
Right.
in the end of the machine because you're not going the full distance. And so if that's the case, you're going to wear out teeth in the front end of the machine. So now later on, as you go back to the comment you made earlier about doing this big carving, now your accuracy is going to change from the front of the machine to the back of the machine because that track doesn't move.
Right.
The teeth are worn out up front, but they're not worn out in the back because of the cabinet work and all the commercial work you've been doing. So when you get to this higher precision stuff that you need to do, or MDF doors is a perfect example of that, you're going to start running into a situation where you might see marks and see things. Is that correct?
Yeah. Yeah. Where with this, we don't have to, we always say it came out perfect.
Yeah.
We expect that.
Yeah.
Well, everybody that has a machine expects it, but not everybody gets it.
Yeah.
And I get that every time.
Yeah,
unless I screwed something up,
yeah,
it's going to come out the way I expect it to and come out perfect every time.
And I've always told people that the machine's going to do exactly what you tell it to. Yeah. Good or bad, it's going to do what you tell it to. Yeah. So sometimes you program it wrong, you're going to do something wrong.
Yep. And we've been through that.
Yeah. And
we've
again,
done that.
We all do it. I mean, I think I've made mistakes too with it. Sometimes you fat finger a number, and when you fat finger a number, sometimes you get a bad result. But
Yep. And we could go back on that particular job.
Yeah.
If you remember, like one of my biggest faux pas in design.
I do.
I really screwed up on that one, but it points to customer service.
Yeah.
Running a 3/4 inch bit, and I screwed up on the programming in a big way, and I ripped the whole spindle off the machine.
Yeah.
Wasn't good.
Yeah.
Wasn't pretty.
Yep.
Ben had me up and running that day.
Yeah.
Now I had to drive down here. I had to get parts.
Yep.
Phone call when I got back.
Yep.
And we were back up and running.
Yep.
Continued that day.
Correct.
Cutting.
Yeah. And the nice thing is now, to put everybody's mind at ease, the new machines have new programming updates in them that stop you from doing those things. But again,
that one was entirely my fault.
Yeah. But it's one of those things where, again, we try to be there to take care of you and get you back up and running. I mean, I think we had a situation, God, what was it? It was Christmas, wasn't it?
It was day before.
Day before Christmas.
It was
Christmas Eve.
The day before Christmas Eve.
Is that what it was?
Yep. Yep.
And he had an issue where you had a computer issue, right?
Yeah. The motherboard fried.
Motherboard go out in his computer, and we drove. Actually, one of our employees here was driving up to family for Christmas and brought a part with him. And
he brought me a whole new computer Christmas Eve.
Oh, is that what it was? Whole computer
on Christmas Eve.
Yeah, I remember it was on Christmas Eve when he was going to family.
Yeah, that was it was just like I said, I was in computers.
Yeah,
this stuff happens.
Yeah,
happened to be a bad motherboard.
Yep.
And does that happen very often? Almost never, but it happens. And we knew what it was right away.
Yeah.
And he drove me a whole new computer. It was 2-3 months after I had got the machine.
Yeah.
So it was warranted, but he drove it up.
Yeah.
Christmas Eve.
We were heading that way. I know he said that. He's like, I'm just gonna swing in there. I'm gonna, I can make a detour out of my way to get him his parts so he can keep running.
Yep.
And you think about that because how many companies would even care? Because let's put it this way.
They'd say it's Christmas Eve.
Correct.
Nobody's around.
And that's what I was gonna say is we probably could have easily told you, hey, it's Christmas Eve.
For sure.
It's not going to happen. Obviously, we'll get it out as soon as we can when the doors open. And that was an acceptable answer. I mean, at the end of the day, there's nothing you can do. But one of our employees went out of their way to try to make sure we took care of you. And that's I think, the big advantage of ShopSabre is it's the people. Again, it's who we are, and it's that builds this company. And that's who we try to, that's how we build products. And we try to build it around the real feedback from customers. Obviously, Shawn, you and I have talked over the years, and there's been things that you've helped us develop in conjunction with the machines. Sure. We've done things together where it's like, hey, if this did this a little bit differently, we could do this so much faster. And so we've sped machines up, and we've been able to create new and exciting products with some of the feedback we get from our customers. And you just happen to be one of those customers that have been able to share some of that feedback. And now, full circle, you've been able to join our team as kind of part of our promotional team. So you've been able to be part of the videos, and you're kind of moving into that role here. So you've kind of been one of the unique ones that have been able to see both sides of the fence here. You're a customer, you're a paying customer, your business depends on our product, but at the same token, now you are also helping other companies invest.
Which do you remember how that all came about?
I don't, to be honest with you.
Back when?
I was trying to remember it. It's funny, me and Chad were talking about it, and he asked me that. He's like, how did we find Shawn? How did that happen? And I'm like, honestly, I couldn't tell you how that transition happened, but I met him We talked a bunch of times about a CNC machine. He was looking at us and a competitor's machine.
Yep.
We went back and forth a bunch, kind of became, friends through that.
Yeah.
And then I told him, like, I don't remember. I just remember being at Las Vegas was the first show you came to with me, but I don't remember how it all came about.
Well, for those of you that have, Travis, Micah, Hunter, Chad as your sales guy, there was only Brandon back then.
It was me.
If you think they're persistent, Brandon was worse, but in a good way.
Yeah.
It was never a pester. It was never, trying to force that sale. And what ultimately what it resulted in was this was the only company, ShopSabre was the only company that communicated really well. I had other companies that they won't even call back. So my thought was, why am I going to give them that, money like that?
Yeah.
When I'm trying to give them money and they won't call me.
Yeah.
But the flip side of it was after I got my machine, what the customer service was like and what it did for my wife and I and our business, our family. Mm-hmm. I remember calling you and telling you, anybody ever wants to talk, have them call me. Mm-hmm. Because you don't need to call and ask me, just have them call me. Mm-hmm. Because when I went through all that, nobody would talk to me.
Yeah.
And it was so frustrating, especially if you're new to CNC.
I think that was a time thing too, because like when you were getting into CNC 10 years ago, CNC was a lot different.
Right.
And I think people still felt like it was like their golden goose. They
Yes.
didn't want somebody else to have a CNC machine because they didn't want to take work away from
Everybody was worried. You could be across the country and the guy is worried they're going to lose
business
to you.
Yeah. Nowadays, there's so much work out there, and people depend on these machines. I think that's a big difference too nowadays too. But continue your story.
I mean, I talk to people in my own town.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter to me. But that's kind of what it boiled down to was I couldn't find anybody to give me any
I do remember that.
honest opinions or anything. It felt like if you called them, it was a bother.
Yeah.
So I just told you, if somebody wants to talk, I'm not going to lie.
Yeah.
I mean, I just told you guys a couple things that happened with
Yeah.
my machine right here.
Yeah.
I mean, it's honest. That's what it stemmed from.
But that's what we want, and that's what I've always told customers too, is that if you want to talk to a salesman, you're on the phone with him. Mm-hmm. He can tell you anything you want, right? But we give you real people because we want you to hear the real stories.
Yeah.
Like we know we're not perfect in every way, right? There's always going to be things that can happen. Like you said, a computer board went out. Well,
hey, things happen.
It's not what any one of us want to have happen, but it's how you react to those things. Because I'll promise you, no matter whose machine you buy, no matter what product you invest in, you're going to need support one day.
Yep.
Hands down. There's no product out there that you're going to buy that you're going to use in your business at this capacity that's not at some point going to require some level of support.
Yep.
And so I always try to tell people, we're not going to pretend to be the perfect company out there. Things may happen. You may make a hiccup. You may have a mistake. We might make a mistake. But I'll promise you one thing. At the end of the day, there's not going to be anybody in the industry that's going to jump through more hoops to try to help you.
Right.
Like, we will do it all. We try to stand behind our product. And, we've always said to people.
Which I've witnessed all that.
Yeah, as long as you're respectful to our team and, like, you work with us and tell us, give us a chance. Mm-hmm. We'll fight for you. I mean, we're that kind of company, And, you know what I do remember about our early part of our relationship up there?
What's that?
When you made barbecue.
Oh, little ribs.
Yeah, we came up there. Remember that? Like, I don't remember why we were up there, but I think you upgraded to the knife, if I'm not mistaken, at that time.
I think that's what it was.
Yeah, I think it was the knife. And he has a knife on his machine now, too, for cutting signs. And we went out there to install it. And he's like, yeah, you guys should come up. And we drove up there. And then he's like, you guys are staying for dinner. And we're like, oh, okay. And he's like, I made barbecue. And he made the best ribs. It was awesome. I remember sitting at the table. I think your dad showed up, actually. We sat with your dad.
Yep.
Your dad came by.
2 racks of ribs.
Yeah, it was awesome. It's a good time.
Yep.
Kind of got off topic
Kind
there.
of like barbecue.
Yeah. That's okay. I'm good with it. Yep. Every time we get together, we get to have some barbecue. So, let's discuss some of your projects real quick. You've mentioned a bunch of things. Obviously, you've been in signs. You've done doors. You've done homes. What's some of the projects you're most proud of? Like, what have you done? And with that, what projects have you utilized the CNC machine on? And what challenges did you have to overcome that the machine made easier for you?
Well, a lot of the carves, like the one we just talked about, that was super fun.
Yeah.
A lot of work. But, I mean, without a machine, you're never doing that.
Yeah. Not unless you're really artistic.
Yeah, I don't know.
You have 14 years.
It'd be tough, but some of the other stuff that made life a lot easier, like in cabinets, we had a really nice rift white oak, matching grain, horizontal grain throughout the whole kitchen.
Okay.
And that would have been a lot more difficult without a CNC.
Yeah.
From my case back in the day, we did everything with a table saw. So I couldn't even cut stuff like that and have clean edges on both sides.
Yeah.
Well, with the CNC, not only is it going to be perfectly square every time, it's clean on both sides.
Yeah.
Run it through the edge banner, we're good to go. And just being able to line everything up, program the whole thing out, and label it. I mean, it made it that much easier.
That's awesome.
And you don't, I mean, you see some of those out there, but they're not easy to do.
Yeah.
So with that ability, I mean, I don't know if I would have tackled that without a CNC.
Yeah. Didn't you do a big job at the Mall of America too?
Yep.
Yeah. Are you able to talk about? I don't know if you're able to talk about it or not.
I'm trying to remember the name of the restaurant.
Cantina.
The Cantina. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. We did the facade on the outside.
Yeah.
It's all aluminum. It's 20 some sheets of aluminum.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's another thing. I mean, not doing that without a machine.
I just remember the pictures that you sent me of that, and it was just so impressive because it was a ton of aluminum.
Tons. Yeah.
And you think about that like a cabinet shop.
Yep.
Cutting aluminum, like you would never put 2 and 2 together. But again, I think that comes back to the machine, right? I mean, without the machine, you're not cutting that job.
Well, and see, that job started because we did the other stuff that is wood inside the restaurant.
Gotcha.
So then it's, well, we need these done too. Well, my machine can do both.
That's cool.
So
it basically
why not
just stemmed.
tackle it?
Yeah, it stemmed from you got part of the job, you might as well get all the job.
Might as well.
That's pretty awesome. And so you did the signs out there, right? You did some of that, if I'm not mistaken. When creating signs, how do you find that the ShopSabre machine performs?
Oh, fantastic.
So, obviously we've talked about cabinetry and you're in cabinets and that's what you do, but you've done a lot of signs. So that's what I want to talk about because I'm sure there's people out here watching that they do signs. I mean, they're not cabinet guys. They don't care about a cabinet, right?
Yeah.
They're going to cut signs. Especially when you look at a sign, I mean, there's intricate fonts, right? I mean, there's intricate parts of a sign. And we've talked about these carvings you do, but let's talk about from sign making standpoints and the detail that goes into it and being able to do it. What's your take on that?
Well, again, with the, ball screw on every axis, it gives you that smoothness.
Yeah.
In the ins and outs of letters, whatever you're doing.
Yeah.
It's just accurate and it's smooth, which makes it easier in the end too.
Yeah.
But the hardest part about those is learning how to code everything.
Yeah.
Yep. Just learning that aspect.
Correct. Because you use Aspire, is that correct?
We use Aspire, Rhino, and KCD for cabinets.
So that's what you got. You got 3 different softwares that you run.
Yep.
So you use Aspire. Is Aspire what you use on your signs primarily?
Primarily, yeah.
Okay. And then you use Rhino for...
Rhino's a lot of the 3D stuff we do.
Okay.
It just kind of varies.
Okay.
But
and then you use your KCD for your casework, essentially, right? Casework, doors, drawers, I'm assuming all that stuff, right? And so let's talk about that a second here because let's talk about the software side of things. I think people get nervous about the learning curve on CNC machines. Now, let's back up a second here because when you learned it, it was 10 years ago.
Right.
10 years ago, the internet wasn't what it is today. ShopSabre wasn't what it is today. We didn't have Sabre Nation University.
Right.
We didn't have a training class back then, and you learned it. Nowadays, we have Sabre Nation University.
Well, you did have a training class.
Did we do the training class back then?
Not like what it is today.
Okay. Say, I couldn't remember. So it was probably a lot less.
It was a lot less.
Yeah, I was going to say, because it was in the first building, if I'm thinking about it, or second building. We were in the second building in Elko, right? Yeah.
Yep.
So I was just thinking about that. I'm like, we didn't even have a conference room back then.
Yeah, it was probably just like me and Ben.
Yeah, I was going to say, like one-on-one, like, good luck, figure it out.
Yep.
By the way, we don't ever say figure it out. But nowadays, we have Sabre Nation University, which you and Bob do lessons on every month. You guys are posting stuff to it. Kyle and Jose edit it, and they put videos out there specifically for educational purposes.
Right.
These entire videos are locked away and hidden from the public.
Right.
That's what's cool. It's like if you're watching this right now.
Huge benefit to buying a machine.
Yeah, if you don't own this machine right now, you can't even see the videos. Like there's a whole bunch of videos out there that go through different topics, whether it be how to set your tools properly, how to program MDF doors, I think this month we're doing one on dinosaur, right? Creating a dinosaur. Lots of cool stuff there, correct?
And they're step by step.
Yeah.
I mean, you follow it the way it's taught in there, you're going to be able to do the same thing.
And that's what I was going to say. They talk about the tools, right? Mm-hmm. You guys all go through the tools and talk about the feed rates and a lot of that stuff in there as well.
And all the programming.
Yeah. And so you got that. That's a great way to learn, right?
Yep.
But then let's talk about the software for a second. I mean, Aspire, right? Vectric product. Vectric, I would say, is probably one of the industry's top, if not the top, CAD CAM package for general CNC use.
Probably.
Okay. So they have tutorials, do they not, Shawn?
They have a lot.
Okay. So have you used those tutorials before?
I've used some, yeah.
Okay. So can you talk about that a little bit? Like tell somebody who's out here listening right now that's like, cool, Shawn was a IT specialist. Of course he can learn this machine. Tell them that they can learn it too. I mean, how they could.
I mean, you first get one of these in your shop. It's intimidating.
Yeah.
It is. But if you are one of the guys I've talked to over the years or gals I've talked to over the years that always ask, do I need to do the training? Because these other companies I talk to, they offer 3 days of training on site, whatever.
Yep.
My usual comment to them is, you don't need the training. As far as running the machine, it's easy.
Yeah.
The way ShopSabre has designed it, it is a piece of cake. I truly think I could probably have you running the machine in 5 minutes over the phone.
Yeah.
It's not hard.
Correct.
Learning the software, depending on what you're going to do, there's a learning curve.
Okay.
KCD makes it pretty simple because the cabinets are pretty much already designed.
Okay.
And then you can modify them. So you can just place them, set your sizes, modify openings, whatever.
Yep.
It makes it pretty simple. As far as VCarve, Aspire, Rhino can be a lot more complicated.
Yeah, I know Rhino is
It's a very, very in-depth software.
Yeah.
And depending on what you're going to do with VCarve, it can be pretty easy.
Yeah.
If you were to go on to Sabre Nation, I posted last week, and we had my oldest grad party. Mm-hmm. And just kind of last minute, I decided to throw a sign together for his grad party. And it took me maybe 10 minutes.
That's cool.
To design the thing out.
You did that in VCarve then?
I did that in VCarve.
Yeah.
Yep. And then I think it was probably a 25-minute.
The cool thing about VCarve is you can literally just type out words. Like you type out any font that you have on your computer, you can type it out, select the font.
Yep. You can load fonts.
You can load fonts, download fonts, but then you can kind of play with it there. So a lot of that stuff's easy. The hardest thing is when you get into the custom programming, right? When you're doing a, custom 3D
the 3D
sculpture.
Stuff takes a little more work. But when you start down that path, there's a lot of free videos you can find that will, some will teach you in depth. Some will give you enough knowledge for you to try it out and figure it out. And the beauty of that with Rhino, you can simulate it all.
Yeah.
So you put all your tool paths in and you can simulate it. And then you look through it and figure out, well, that doesn't look right. Well, you can change it.
Yeah.
So before you even put it to the machine to cut, you're going to know if you made a mistake or you have that ability at least.
Yeah.
Certainly there's times where you might not catch it. But you can. And there's a ton of videos out there.
That's awesome.
And VCarve has, I believe they've got a forum you can go through as well.
Yep, they do.
So there's all kinds of help out there. And it's, once you get into it, it's not as intimidating as it once seemed.
Yeah. The one thing I tell people all the time is don't be afraid to ask questions. Like we live in this culture now where everybody is so proud that they don't want to ask questions, right? Nobody wants to act like they don't know it.
Well, and again, it goes to the support here.
Yeah.
I mean, these guys are great. They're friendly. They're going to help you out with wherever they can.
And that's exactly it. We can only help you if we know there's an issue.
Right.
Like if you're willing to call our team up and talk to them, like, hey, I don't know what I'm doing here. We're going to help you. We're going to point you in the right direction. We're going to get you going. But if you tell us you understand it, we're also not going to be the kind of company that's going to, let's start at step one, right? When I say step one, it's always you call somebody and they're like, did you plug it in?
Right.
Yeah, I got it plugged in. Like, I don't need to go through, okay, did you turn it on? Yep, we're well past that. Like, we don't go that far back on you. We're not going to do that to you because we're real people. We know how frustrating that gets. So when we ask you a question, hey, do you know how to do this? Don't say yes if you don't know it. Because if you say yes, we're going to skip past that step and go to the next one. But if you tell us no, we'll start there. We'll walk right through it with you. And that's where that training class comes in play, is some people do want a hands-on, in-person training class, and we run a class every month.
Well, and I've sent employees down here for it.
Yeah.
And they come back, and they've got the general knowledge to run the machine. Saves me a little time there. I mean, obviously I could teach them, but to me, this was easier to send them down here and just
That's
say,
a benefit, though, of owning the machine.
You know what? I can continue with my day and not have to do this. And
you don't make money teaching them how to run the machine. I mean, at the end of the day, that's not where your money's made.
Right.
So sending them to me while you're making money is kind of a better benefit to your business.
Yep.
And that's why we do it, because we've always said our machines are only as good as the people running it.
Right.
And if the person running it has no idea what they're doing, it doesn't make our product look better. So for us, the support and the free training and all that is a benefit to both companies. It helps you be successful with your machine, which in turn gives us, positive light. People are gonna, wow, look what Shawn did with his machine. I need to get me one of those. Like people want to add equipment that works, and so if your machine's working because the support's there, it only helps us sell machines.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, it's amazing what this machine does.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
I love when if we go back to that Minnesota sign we made.
Yeah.
Check that video out if you haven't seen it.
Yep.
Because that thing's cool. I mean, we cut everything.
13 different materials, wasn't it?
I don't even remember now.
I think
Copper,
it was 13. Yeah.
aluminum, brass,
Yep.
plastics, acrylic,
Hardwood,
hardwoods, MDF, melamine. I mean,
you name it, we pretty much cut it.
If wasn't every letter, every spot
everything
different?
was different. Yep. Yeah. Every letter of Minnesota was or of ShopSabre was different. It was ShopSabre. Yeah. Everything of ShopSabre was different, and then the map
foam.
Yeah, it was awesome, and
we cut a lot of foam.
We're gonna display it at AWFS here in a month, right?
Awesome.
Yeah,
you're booth 2701.
Is that where we're at? 27. Look at he knows our booth. I don't even know our booth number. Good for you. 2701. So AWFS this year, we're gonna be there. You're gonna be there, Shawn, right?
I'll be there.
You're coming to join us. You'll be in the booth talking about your experience, about your machine. We're gonna be talking about this project. Obviously, you helped that Minnesota, map and map cutout. I don't know why I called it a map. It's Minnesota cutout.
That's all right. You probably don't even know what wood it's made out of.
I think it's walnut.
Yeah, you're right. Good job.
Go me. Yeah, it was.
Give you like a clap or something.
Yes, the clap. Go me. It's a really impressive project, like you said. It turned out really nice. So we're gonna have that on display. So if you're coming down to Las Vegas for AWFS, make sure you swing by, check it out. I think you'll really enjoy that project. But let's talk a little bit for a second for those listening, who might be new to the CNC world in general, right? What advice would you give them about incorporating a CNC machine and into their work, into their processes? And specifically, let's talk about ShopSabre. Obviously, that's who we are. Like, tell me about incorporating the ShopSabre or why they should incorporate a ShopSabre. But again, let's talk general as well. And any pointers you would give them if they're brand new to CNC or looking at CNC right now?
Well, we often hear two different sides of it. One is, I'm getting older and I've done it this way my whole life.
Yep.
The other is we're just starting out and should I jump into the CNC?
Yep.
In both scenarios, I'd say yeah. Do it.
Yeah.
If you're serious about being an entrepreneur and running a business like this and getting going, this is the way to do it.
Yeah.
The CNC gives you every capability that your mind can come up with. Mm-hmm. We talked about programming. We talked about all that stuff. There is so much online that can help you out that wasn't there 10 years ago that is now.
Yeah.
There's classes. There's all kinds of stuff, and it's just going to propel you real fast.
Yep.
And then when you combine it with the ShopSabre machine that can do so many things that, quite honestly, a lot of the other machines can't. This is really a awesome all-around machine. You're not going to cut steel with it.
Yeah.
But that's why, we sell plasma machines too.
That's why we have plasma machines, exactly.
So it's just an all-around awesome machine. And like I said, with the tech support here, I don't know, you can't find a better bundle.
What advice would you have? Like, what's something that you wish you had known going into it? Do you have anything that you're like, hey, I would do this differently?
what would I do differently?
I got him, guys. I found a question that he couldn't answer.
I'm sure there's something. Just have to think about it.
Yeah.
Well, not a big deal now, but I would have gone with a bigger pump the first time.
Yeah,
I would have gone with a bigger pump.
Because you had a smaller regenerative. You had the regenerative
FPZ,
blower, right? The FPZ regenerative.
Which was good.
Yep.
Just depending on how you used it. And when we switched to not just doing cabinet parts and doing a million different things, the Becker pump came in clutch.
Yeah. Because you upgraded.
And learning how to use that.
I was going to say, when you upgraded it, initially it was a learning curve again.
It was a learning curve.
Because it's completely different style pump, so the way you cut things is different with a Becker. But you would say, now that you've had experience with both, you'd pick the Becker every time.
Yep, 100%.
Perfect. So that's a good one because that is a question we get a lot. People ask.
The other side of that too is you can, I think I went with the 15 or 17 horse, whatever
17,
it is.
Yep.
You can stack them if I'm not wrong.
Yes, you're correct. You can
so
buy multiple pumps. So down the road, if you need more.
If I need more, I can always do that.
Yeah. Where you can't do that with the regenerative system.
Right.
So that's true. You can add vacuum as you grow, as you need more. Let's talk about growth for a second here, though. What's your vision look like? What are you envisioning for the future for your company? What are you envisioning for the work in terms of CNC? What's your future? And let's go a little bit further with that and say, you've been around ShopSabre now. You see us evolving. How is what we're doing and all the advancements in the CNC equipment and technology, particularly related to the ShopSabre machines, going to affect you, do you think, in the future?
Well, we've been looking for a new building. Mm-hmm. We are, for anybody that's seen my shop, it's kind of ridiculous. It's very small, and we are on top of each other.
Yeah.
So we've been looking for a new building, and when we finally find the right fit, I could use a couple machines right now.
Yeah.
And so that will definitely be in the future. We're as busy as we've ever been.
That's awesome.
So yeah, I don't know that I would jump to the ISM just because I run the IS and I like it and I know it.
Yeah.
But definitely adding
another machine.
Yep, for sure, another one.
That's awesome.
Like our we've got a job coming up, and it is 5 weeks, 12 hours a day of carving.
Wow.
Is what the schedule is right now.
Wow.
So that ties me up big time.
You lose a whole week of cutting
from being able to get cabinets cut.
Yeah.
So we it's going to be some very long days.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And obviously I have to imagine that those kind of jobs are, probably lucrative because of the fact that you're willing to tie up the machine for that long. But let me ask you about a couple options here because we get questions here a lot. And I want your honest take on this as a shop. We get customers that ask about the dust dock for one. And we see people, there's a million people talking about different solutions out there and whatnot, but does the dust dock work?
Yes.
Okay. And does the dust dock save you time, honestly?
Does it save me time?
Yeah. Does the dust dock save you more time than it costs you is kind of what I'm getting at. In terms of its performance compared to the time it's taking to dock. Obviously, everybody's concern is it has to dock.
As far as it docking and this and that?
Yeah.
So does it cost me in the time it takes?
Okay.
I don't believe it does.
Okay.
But this carve we have coming up, that doesn't happen all the time.
Yeah.
So for that scenario, maybe it would. I don't, but not a ton overall.
Yeah.
I think my machine, it's like 20 seconds or something to change a tool, 22 seconds, something like that. Mm-hmm. And in the grand scheme of things, it's usually not that big of a deal.
Yeah.
And the performance, there isn't, for an example, if we surface a spoil board, there is zero dust.
Yeah.
When I'm done, I have no dust. So does the dust dock work from that standpoint? Absolutely. When we do MDF doors, I don't have dust flying around.
Which is nice because, what does that do for the cleanup process at the end?
Exactly.
So the time you've spent, so again, let's go back to that 22 seconds is, roughly a 22-second time. So you talk about a typical job. How many tool changes do you think you go through in a typical job?
If it's cabinets, it's usually 3 or 4.
Okay, so we're talking a minute.
So it's not much.
Yeah, about a minute worth of time. So, I want people to hear that. Like, is a minute worth time going to break your entire day?
To me, no.
I can't imagine that in most shops it would. I mean,
No.
considering the functionality of the dust stock outweighs the time. I mean, can you clean your whole shop in a minute?
No.
No. So if you're getting dust elsewhere, you're trading time for cleaning, you know? So it's, to me, I don't see enough of an advantage to, you know, ever. I've seen people say that the speed, and people don't run their machines nearly at the capabilities that they can.
Yeah, I mean, I would be looking at that as far as, do you now have to break into having 2 shifts in your shop because you wasted 20 seconds changing to
Correct.
a different tool?
If the answer is yes to that, do you think it's time for a second machine? Probably.
I would say it's time for another machine.
Like the dust stock isn't costing you money; it's you not buying a second machine is probably costing you.
That's where I would start. You know, but that's me.
Yeah,
I get that's not everybody.
yeah. Or add a drill head to the machine, right?
You can do that.
That would save you some time from even having to do a tool change.
You can do that, and that's a whole nother topic too.
Yeah.
I mean, some people swear you have to have them.
That's what that was going to be my next question. Was drill head. Like in your business, you guys are a busy shop. Do you have a drill head on your machine?
I do not.
Do you feel that you need one on your machine?
I don't.
Okay.
Our machine does run. I would say average 6 to 10 hours a day.
Okay.
Just depends on what we're doing,
Yep.
and to me, it depends on what you cut. If you're doing closets every day, all day long, and you're doing a full run of shelf-holds, well, it might be beneficial.
I agree.
But you're also looking at what, a $10,000-$12,000 add-on.
About $9,500 now.
So weigh that into it too.
Yep.
You know, it just depends on, again, how you use your machine.
Yeah.
But for me, I looked at it as until this machine's running 10, 12 hours a day, every single day doing cabinets,
Yep.
then maybe I'll add one.
Yeah.
If that's where my holdup is.
Yep.
Maybe the holdup isn't that. Maybe it's I need another machine.
Yeah.
You know, it just depends on what you do.
And the last one I got for you here. What about loaders, unloaders?
Well,
What's your take on that?
again, I think that's dependent on how your shop operates.
Yep.
For me, I've got the Schmalz vacuum lift.
Yep.
It was 2 years ago at AWFS that, you know, brought my wife with, you know, the boss. And, of course, being in the industry, we've known these have been around forever. I've herniated one disc pretty severely in the past. So she walked by and said, "What is that?" And I had to tell her. And then I had to buy one. Because she says, "You're getting old." No, truly the benefit. One of our clients is we cut a lot of phenolic and we cut a lot of plastic.
So really lightweight material.
Real lightweight.
Yeah.
Exactly. And you can't slide that stuff around.
Yeah.
It needs to be lifted and set back down.
Oh, there's scratches, correct?
Or your risk of scratching it
Yeah.
greatly increases.
Yeah.
And at the cost of those sheets, you don't want to do that.
Yeah.
It's a furniture line that we produce, so it needs to go out as if it was, you know, fresh from the factory.
Yep.
So that's where that machine really shined.
Are you trying to tell me that there's not a market for pre-scratched furniture?
There's not, unfortunately. Well, I shouldn't say that. Look at some of the, you know, the rustic material, you know, furniture out there now.
Yeah.
You can just beat the stuff up.
But no, in all seriousness, though, so you added the Schmalz vacuum lift.
Yep.
Are you glad you have it now? I mean, I know your wife kind of forced you into it. Are you happy you have it now?
Oh, it's definitely nice.
Now, would you go back without it?
No.
You would not run without a lift now?
It's pretty nice to have.
Okay,
Yep.
so now let's look at that.
And I don't have to worry about who's, you know, running the machine.
Correct. I was just going to say that. You have a 14-year-old son, is that right, that loaded the machine with it?
My 8-year-old's done it.
Okay, so I was way off. He's 8.
Because I have 96
I'm
kids,
sorry.
remember?
Yeah, you got 96 kids, and they're all taller than me.
Not hard.
True. But
He's on a booster seat right now.
I'm sitting on a booster seat right now. But the 8-year-old used the lift
Yep,
to
he's done it.
load material. I've seen the pictures and the videos, and
Yep.
he lifted material onto this machine using the lift
Yep.
because it's that easy to use.
Yep.
But now let's compare it. You know, we hear guys that, we got to have a loader unloader. It's got to have the loader unloader because it's going to make my shop faster.
I just think it depends on how you run your shop
Okay.
and what you're cutting.
Yeah.
I think the benefit to have an loader, I don't know.
Yeah.
But the unloader, just be able to push your material off. And
Correct.
And again, depends on how you run your shop.
Because even that, I mean, you can push it off all you want, but you still got to do something with it.
You have to do something with it.
And that's the thing is, if you don't have a streamlined process, you're just moving the bottleneck somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
It's still there. It's not that you've made more money with your shop. It's you got a bottleneck just somewhere else in the shop. So you have to be extremely efficient if you have an automated line, right?
Yep.
But my point is
so same with like this stuff that we're talking about.
Yeah.
Using the lift to put on. Well, I don't want it pushed off either.
Yeah.
So I still run the same risk of it scratching.
Correct. It's
one
just
way or
now
another.
it's scratched after it was complete.
So, same concept.
Yeah, and that's what I was going to say is, so for me, I've said that if you're a massive shop and you have a bunch of room and you have a full-time maintenance guy and you have the ability to set up an automation system, right? A loader unloader probably makes sense for you. But the average shop, in my experience, doesn't truly benefit from a loader unloader.
Well, to me, like just the amount of space I would.
That's my thought, is that the building alone has to be. I mean, the machine takes up 3 times the space if you have a loader unloader.
Minimum.
3
Minimum.
times. Yep.
Then you still got to put material in places.
Correct. And then you still got to store the material now, so you're adding more space. Plus all the maintenance that goes into those loaders, unloaders, and the automation system. Mm-hmm. And now the safety stuff, because a lot of times have to have guards and things in place to not get people hurt. But that Schmalz lift you have essentially does the same thing.
Yep.
It's just manually operated. You use the guy that's there to actually do the work.
Yep. And the square footage it takes up is, what, 2 square feet?
Yeah, it's like almost nothing. And you can use it for other things, if I'm not mistaken. It's
So-
not just for the machine. You can actually
You could.
transition, move stuff around your shop a little bit, within the swing of it, correct?
Yep.
Which is nice if you don't have a forklift.
Right.
You can pick things up and move things around. How hard are they to run?
Oh, they're a piece of cake.
Super easy.
8-year-old does it.
Well, I watched Hunter crash it into the machine one time, so I didn't know how hard they were.
He's a sales guy.
That's true. Leave the sales guy out of it. The 8-year-old figured it out.
Sorry, Hunter.
Hunter couldn't figure it out. No, it actually is really easy. We were playing around with them, but that's what I got.
The first time you use it, they are touchy.
Yeah, it's like a throttle.
Well, yeah, it's like hopping on a crotch rocket.
Yeah, and you kind of want to just you want to give it the
Don't
beans.
overturn
You
that
shouldn't
thing.
give it the beans. Yeah, trust me. I gave it the beans, and it flies all over the place pretty quick.
Yeah.
But that's all my questions I had. I guess anything that you want to share with our viewers, anything that we didn't talk about when it comes to cabinetry, sign making, owning a CNC, being a part of the ShopSabre family, like anything.
Yeah, I would just say if you're on the fence, do it. Get a machine and be open to other capabilities. Like I said, we've started a whole other company because of this machine.
That's awesome.
And being able to do so much more. So for me, it's changed our lives and what we do. And I love it. And it's fun,
Yeah. Well, we're having fun doing this stuff too. I mean, it's kind of cool like you said, when we look back at it 10 years ago, that phone call I took, I never envisioned that it would turn into this.
No.
That it would be this relationship. I've gotten to know your family. I've gotten to know your boys. I've gotten to know your wife. I've gotten to know all of you guys because of this relationship. And it's one of those things where these machines, being able to help you grow your business and being on the second machine now. And I just could never have envisioned us being here on a podcast,
No.
talking about CNC machines and just helping as many people as we have over the years. I think about all the people we've helped at past shows. You and I have been to 3 shows together, right? 3 shows together.
2 Vegas and Atlanta.
Yeah, we've been to 3 shows together, and I just think about all the people we've been able to help and how many stories I've heard from people. And my favorite stories are when people call me up after owning a machine for 6 months and tell me, I doubted myself, and I waited way too long to do this. I pushed this off. I should have done it sooner. It's the best decision I ever made.
Yeah, I mean, it's fun. It's rewarding.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it was Vegas. Maybe you remember the guy's name. I don't know. He ended up flying. Was he Philippines?
Oh, yes. I think that was Vegas.
He flew out here.
Yep.
And took me out to lunch.
Yeah.
To basically.
He was from the Philippines.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And they bought 2
I was
machines.
gonna say he bought 2 machines. Same thing. Had put it off for several years. Thought he needed it, but didn't know what he wanted to do. Came to the show, met us at the show, bought machines at the show from us, got them, and then he ended up flying out here. And I remember coming here, touring the facility, and then he said he was taking you out to lunch.
Yep, and they drove up, and he had 3 of his guys with him.
Correct.
Just to look at my shop and ask questions.
Yep.
And then we went out to lunch, and was great. It was
Yeah,
fun.
that's awesome. I mean, that kind of goes to show though how really beneficial these machines can be, because it's been worth the while for somebody to come from the Philippines to the United States just to take you to lunch, essentially, to be a big part of it. So, yeah, I think, like I said, I appreciate everything you've shared today. I mean, hopefully.
Well, and I wouldn't be here today if it, I mean, when we started this, what it's done changed our life. So
I'm glad to hear that. That's why we do what we do. And it's, I want to be a positive change in people's lives. And, obviously you could tune in all the time to, talk and shop with ShopSabre, and we have a bunch of us and we tell stories and we talk about business. But this one, SabreTalk is really about this one-on-one time, talking to different people in the industry, different people related to CNC, and just really helping you, the consumer, learn a little bit more about it and understand. Like, this is real people. Again, Shawn, they can get a hold of you. How does somebody get a hold of you if they want you to bid them a job, or if they want to talk to you about your experience?
Well, you could email me, Shawn, SHAWN, at lakescabinetry.com, or give me a call, 651-442-9508.
It's awesome, man. We appreciate it. Like I said, obviously, if that's not the real estate,
just leave a message.
If you don't leave a message,
I'm not always able to answer the phone.
Yeah, I'm the same way. People don't leave me messages. I don't call weird numbers back.
I don't call back.
Yeah, but no, it's I think that's the realest statement you can get here. He just gave you his real phone number and he gave you his email. If that doesn't help you, I don't know what will. But if anything else, you can always visit us. Come to our facility. You can do a tour here. Our team will be more than happy to help you. Check things out. And then of course we have a lot of stuff on the internet too.
And come out
ShopSabre.com.
Gotcha.
And come to Vegas.
Yeah, you can come to Vegas, enjoy yourself.
Come to the show.
Next month we'll be out there. What booth was that again?
2701.
2701. So I think with that, I'm Brandon.
I'm Shawn.
This is Shawn, obviously. And Shawn, thanks for joining us today.
You bet.